Kim, your bookstore is unique because it's books and food.
That's right. I am a culinary bookstore in Buffalo, New York called Read It and Eat.
Can people actually eat there, or is this just a bookstore that focuses more on like cookbooks and food?
We're definitely a store that focuses on cookbooks, but I like to say culinary adventures. So you can still come in and grab a cozy culinary mystery and more. But the other half of your question, we do sell baking kits, food accessories, and spices. Our store also specializes in hosting cooking classes. So we average 1 to 2 classes a month, and it's a series called Cooks and Books. I work with a local chef in the Buffalo area. We pick a different culinary theme, such as bagels. We just had a bagel class last Thursday, and our students sign up. You learn to bake something delicious. You get to go home with it, and you go home with the cookbook. So I'm not a cafe, but I'm bringing you cooking classes and culinary adventures.
That is so unique. I've talked to a lot of other independent bookstores, and they all talk about how they have to diversify their income because the profit margin on books is so low. But I have never heard of this kind of diversification. So, how did you get the idea for this?
So if we could backtrack about 5 years, I actually launched first as a book and food subscription box called Read It and Eat Box. Remember back in the days of COVID, we were all at home and everyone wanted to learn to make sourdough bread. And I thought, whoa, like we just jumped right into the deep end of hard cooking for some. I am not a baker. So I wanted to connect people back to their food, but from the safety of their own homes. So I saw this opportunity in the market. Book subscription boxes were huge back then. And 4 times a year, we were sending out these kits that paired, a book and food together. And $5 from the box sold was donated to fight hunger in Buffalo. About 2 years back now, I was given the opportunity to move into a micro space, about 200 square feet, to really test if this culinary bookstore could work in Buffalo. And now I'm in my current location, which is about double the size at 400. But it really started as a book subscription box and finding a way to reconnect people to their food in a time where we were all looking for comfort and we were also kind of all trapped at home.
Do you still have the book subscription box?
I do in some capacity right now, but we are winding down in 2025 just because I want to be able to make sure that that experience is still an awesome culinary adventure. And with the store growing and more events and authors, we just want to recalibrate in 2026. So it's still available. There's 3 more boxes left for the year. We're doing salts. We just did our jams and jelly boxes, and we've got 2 more coming for the holiday season.
So, do you have a kitchen in the bookstore? Like, how can you do the cooking classes in a bookstore?
Great question. So we actually have a community kitchen right next door to us that we are allowed to rent. And that community kitchen, I kind of equate it to like almost like a TV studio kitchen, the Rachel Ray kitchen. There's a stove, there's an oven, and you can get some basic culinary adventures in there. We call that series a little bit more of a talk and taste, where you're maybe tasting food for the first time and working with the chef. If we're looking for something a little bit more hands-on, we do have partners in the Buffalo space. A lot of them are good friends of mine that are restaurateurs. We'll actually go to their kitchens as well. And it's also a great way to connect our audience in Buffalo to a lot of these small businesses. They might not know that Bloom and Rose is a Jewish deli over on Chandler Street. And I'm bringing people to these partners of mine, and it's all keeping that money indie. It's keeping it small, and it's keeping it in the neighborhood.
So, Kim, tell me about where your revenue streams come from as it relates to books, people paying for cooking classes, other like cooking items. Like how do you make your money in these different ways at at Read It and Eat?
Sure. So definitely we make a good portion of our funds coming from the actual cookbooks themselves. I think the difference between a specialty store like mine and a maybe multi-genre store is that we don't have the high foot traffic, but our cost or transaction per customer is inherently higher because the average markup on a cookbook is $35 versus a paperback still $18.99. We do have a ton of culinary accessories, including a whole wall of bookmarks that are all shaped like different things, like a bottle of wine or hot sauce. It's a lot of fun. So Within that, though, the event stream, I've really leaned into event curation. That seems to be people want those classes. They also love author events that involve a cookbook. And if you're coming for an author event, I'm always feeding you. So that revenue stream is definitely a good 30% of what we do. But it also differentiates us here in Buffalo. There are, fun fact, at least 15 working indie bookstores in Buffalo. And I really looked at the lane of who's doing the events and foot on the ground, getting these authors to come to Buffalo. And I've decided that that's really my lane because I am so differentiated from the average bookstore.
You really are. And I remember hearing one time, if you want to write a book and make it a bestseller, then make it a cookbook because people buy cookbooks.
Cookbooks, there's so many that come out every year. That's part of my favorite part of owning the store and my job is looking through what's coming and seeing also what the food trends are. Beyond owning a bookstore, I still have a full-time job and I work in food. So flavor trends, culinary trends, it's really interesting and fun to see what the next big thing is going to be. And then also looking at my inventory and seeing what's selling. Korean cookbooks right now are having their moment, but so are books about beans, one pot beans. I don't know why beans are having its moment, and that cookbooks are a wonderful thing. And I think in the world of now TikTok, social media, there's a whole new generation that are getting their first cookbooks. And there's I'd say, classics like Jacques Pepin, Martha Stewart just put out her 100th book. So I have this breadth of opportunity to really see what my audience wants. And I love it.
So you just mentioned that you're doing this and working full time.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're doing that with time and just the things that you have to do as well.
What I recognized about this bookstore was when having those clear understanding of what I was walking into. So I like to tell people that my full-time job pays my mortgage and my cookbook store feeds my soul. But being a bookstore owner, it is a very wonderful life. People love to reference You've Got Mail. But I knew going in that the salary I was making at my full-time job, a bookstore would never replace that. It's just a very different world. So going in, when I look at my P&L and I look at overhead, I knew I was going to sink more money into payroll than an average bookstore. So I'm only in my shop 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week. And then I have staff. I have 3 part-time employees right now, one of which is only dedicated to marketing and PR. And my life is a little crazy. It's self-imposed. So I work a full-time job 5 days a week. And I'm also in bookseller classes right now. So 3 nights a week, I'm in night classes. So delegation is key and being very organized is key. But I also have learned now the bookshop turned 1 in November to also give myself a life again. So now I take every Sunday off, go on a date with the husband, take some time to rest. But I went in with a very clear understanding that it was going to be a lot of delegation and a lot of communication with a team that I had to really trust.
And it sounds like an understanding that like this bookstore isn't going to make you rich. You'll maybe make a little bit of money, but it's more so for enjoyment.
Absolutely. I think when I work with my business coach and we look at the finances and forecasting, the goal is some people think the goal is I want to do this full time. My goal is in the next, again, my shop's under 2 years old for those who are new to Read It and Eat. My goal in the next 2 years is to have a full-time manager. Like that is where you set different strategic goals based on what your vision of your store is. I love the event side of this. I love working with my authors, my interview questions, and that's where I'm a star. But I also love and look forward to the day where I have the help of someone who's going to help me run payroll, help me run that calendar, help me with just day-to-day things. For example, I'm working in the shop today, but I also got here an hour early because I had to process all of the inventory. There's a world, I see the future where I might have an inventory manager one day, even if it's part-time, just to help. So it's a life that I do willingly though, and it feeds my soul in such a fun way.
I love that you have a business coach, and then you also mentioned you're taking a book selling course. Tell me about that. I just love that you're always like learning more from other people.
Oh, I'm a lifelong learner, and I also think that's important for booksellers. So through the American Booksellers Association, there is something called the Professional Booksellers School. We have tons of industry partners that sponsor these programs, and it is taught by multiple courses, taught by booksellers who have been in the industry for 20 plus years. So on Monday nights, I'm in event management for booksellers. On Wednesdays, I'm in inventory management for booksellers. And Thursdays, I just started store operations. And there's a lot you learn by doing as a bookseller. I want to give everyone credit. We learn a lot as we go, but sitting there and having someone who has the insights of not, when you first open, it feels like you're just keeping your head above water. And here are some ways to let's think strategically, let's streamline. It dawned on me in class last week, I didn't have an opening and closing procedure, like just written down. I kind of always told my staff what to do, but now they have a checklist every day and they love it too. They were like, we love having a checklist. This makes it a little bit easier because we can always text you, we can always call you, but it is nice to have this gut check that I'm doing everything. So I highly endorse these classes. I'm not sponsored to say that, but it for me gets a lot of things out of my head and it forces me to put standard operating procedures on paper. They have to exist now, and it's an intense. I've got like another 8 to 10 weeks of classes, and it's a lot right now, but I know I'm walking away with a store guide. I now know how to better calculate turns on all of my books. So I'm not sitting on stale inventory. It's all about efficiencies that are going to help me be a profitable business owner.
What was the most challenging part about opening up that location?
Last September, I actually moved locations in the first year of being open. My first spot, there were just some issues with management, and I found a big drop in foot traffic. Now, I was in an incubator program, so we were allowed to pay rent month to month. But you've been open less than a year, and there's days where I was having one person walk in, and it's okay, do I close up shop or do I take a risk? And I've had this conversation before, which is risk versus foolishness. And like, when do you know it's a strategic risk? And when do you also just put a lot of faith in yourself? And I am very driven by my gut. And I know that's one of those irrational, non-calculating things, but I knew Buffalo was ready for this culinary bookstore. But it was hard in July to go to my audience and go, I'm closing. I'm leaving this store. I'm packing everything up. And it was all in my basement for about a month. And then go back to that audience and say, I found my new spot, but I do need help. And we had a Kickstarter. We raised $5,000, and it just helped buy not inventory as much as the fixtures. I needed some more bookshelves. I needed some furniture, and my Buffalo really rallied behind me. But it was a very hard decision because you naturally, I think, oh wow, I'm a failure. I couldn't make this spot work. And now looking back, it's no, I recognized my audience wasn't where that store was, and I needed to go to a location where they would go to. That was a rough one in under a year to be like, wow, we're packing up shop already, but we're okay now. We're in a new location that's also double the size. And with more size, we have more inventory and a better curation of items.
I can imagine that the most important thing about opening a bookstore is the location of it, because for many businesses like bookstores, it's just the random foot traffic that you're going to get that just happens to be walking by, right?
Yes. And I think it's important to do your research. And I have done, that kind of demographic level. Sometimes I can tell that my business school background comes out, but you need to know where your demographic is. So a cookbook, again, it's about $35 before tax. So you need to know a customer that has discretionary income. They're not coming in here for a paperback romance book the way they might at another store. So where is that population? And I am thankfully in a building with 9 other women-owned businesses. And right down the hallway from me is a coffee shop. So that coffee shop does bring in that foot traffic who might not know who Read It Eat is. And I get a kick out of watching them peer their heads in the door and they go, oh, it's a bookstore. And then as they start to look at the shelves, they go, wait a minute, this is all food stuff, isn't it? And I was like, yes, you are in a culinary bookstore. With that in mind, this co-op we're in, if you will, we're inherently off the street. So there isn't a lot of street foot traffic. So when I look at the hours of that coffee shop, we actually adjusted our hours. We are now open an hour early because we're picking up more of the coffee shop traffic than in the afternoon. And the audience, nobody's complained. If anything, I immediately have seen an uptick in traffic because I'm overlapping more of my hours. So you have to be willing to do that kind of research and also be willing to tweak and take risks. I didn't think opening at 10 a.m. on a Friday, or Thursdays and Fridays when we open at 10 a.m., was going to make a huge difference. And it did. And now on Saturdays and Sundays, we open at 9 a.m. instead of 10. And from 9 a.m. to 11 is when I see the huge jump in traffic now.
What would you advise for people who maybe want to open a bookstore or a bookish business?
Do not open your bookstore on a business credit card. Don't do it. Take the time to really build an estimated cost. And Kim, how would I ever learn how to do that? There's a lot of great actual Facebook groups, like Bookseller Mentors is a Facebook group, and there's many of us who go in there asking everything. Like, hi, my Square POS system is making this weird error. What do I do? Or does anyone have experience with hosting book fairs at children's schools or like public schools? There are resources out there, but another more, I'd say, well-known industry, look at the American Booksellers Association and don't be afraid to ask questions. And there are tons of webinars. There are tons of groups that are willing to support you. So first is do your research, ask for help. Do not open a bookstore on a credit card. It should be self-explanatory, but there are so many small business loans that you can look into and do your forecasting. But even if it's a passion project, it's so easy and so quick to fall into a risk of perpetuating debt. So you want to go in with a plan to succeed and not be paying catch up. Fun fact, you read a lot less when you become an owner, but I actually read a lot of food writing. So chef memoirs and food history are my favorite. But in terms of fiction, I love a cozy culinary mystery and I love a kitchen romance. So we actually had an author here earlier this month, Lindsay Hammeroff, who wrote a romance book, Never Planned on You. And there's a restaurant in it, there's a wedding planner in it. And our audience got to meet her for an author signing and we brought in slices of wedding cake. I love a foodie romance or a food history book that's fiction. Like take me back to Paris when food was just so different. So I could go on and on, but yes, I read more than cookbooks. And if you ever need a recommendation, I am happy to connect you to something foodie and delicious to read.
I feel like those are kind of trendy too, like the food murder mysteries. One that I'm seeing all over Bookstagram and TikTok, it's a series. And I think it's the ones about there's a pumpkin something, there's a cinnamon roll something.
Ah, yes. So they are foodie romances. There's now the fourth book just came out in February, and it is The Strawberry Shortcake Pancake House. Her next book actually comes out in time for the holidays. So this woman is writing, and it has on the back cover little chili peppers for the spice meter. So for those who are looking for a little bit of smut, it's in there, and I appreciate it. She's I think she got her start, or her audience is largely on TikTok, but my friends who owns a romance bookstore in Buffalo called Afterglow Books would be able to tell you so much more about it.
Okay, yes, I love the smut. I'm gonna have to pick up that series. I also read one, oh, it's been years ago. Oh, I feel like it's something about a meet cute or a tweet cute. Maybe it was called Tweet Cute.
Yes, there is a young adult book called Tweet Cute.
And there's like it was a grilled cheese food truck or
Grilled cheese
something with
Twitter
cupcakes.
war.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that one was really cute too. Okay, so I'm just now realizing I like these cute little romances with food.
Because food is so universal and it's such a connector for people that even if it's not your cuisine, it's so easy to get wrapped up in it. I mean, I'm looking over at my shelves and Love Lie and Cherry Pie. There's Love at 350 Degrees, which is a romance.
I have that one. I have that one. I haven't read it though. Yeah.
Yes,
So, and that's so cool that you carry all of those in addition to actual cookbooks. I love it. I love the theme.
Yes, it's great. It is strategic because you get people who walk in who maybe aren't ready for a cookbook, but then they look at the other table of fiction offerings and they go, oh, wait. And then they might pick up that new paperback, that new hardcover, even if they're not ready for a cookbook. But when they put two and two together, a book like that and a bookmark is also been a really good revenue stream for us. It's like, I'm going to get this book about hot love and hot chicken. And oh my God, Kim, is that a bookmark that looks like a chicken drumstick? And it's like, yes, it is. Because if you find a friend, everyone has a friend who's obsessed with a food. It's so easy to bring those accessories and gifts in and give them such a cute story. So we are available online. We have a a website, readitandeatshop.com. We ship anywhere in the United States. We're most active on Instagram and Facebook at Read It and Eat Buff, BUF for buffalo.com. And beyond that, if you send us a note in the DMs or sign up for our newsletter, you're most likely talking to me, the owner. And I just wanted to say thank you to you, Christina, for giving me this platform and this opportunity to chat with you today.